This is the OLED Nintendo Switch, and this is the old, gross, boring Nintendo Switch. Some are saying this new model is a game changer, while other people are disappointed and were expecting a more pro model. With record sales on what people thought was going to be Nintendo's biggest flop era of the game console, it actually proved to be one of their most successful, and I pretty much guarantee that most people who are watching this video already have the previous generation of the Nintendo Switch somewhere in their home. So rather than a full review on the OLED Nintendo Switch, the biggest question that people are going to have is, should I upgrade from a previous generation Switch to the OLED model? Starting with the design of this new Switch, housing a similar look where from a distance you may not notice which is which, but getting closer you start to notice that this isn't the same thing. From the moment I picked up this OLED model, I was surprised at how premium it felt, feeling slightly heavier than the previous editions. And with a more premium feel because of that glass display, this made a big shift from cheap feeling toy to really premium and sophisticated gaming console. On the top we've got the reshaped power button, volume buttons, a vent, headphone jack, and the game card slot. On the bottom, we've got our standard USB-C port and two speakers located near the bottom bezel for much better sound than on previous models. On the back, we've got the Nintendo Switch branding and a way more stable stand versus last year's model, which feels kind of pathetic in comparison. The new stand, however, spans the length of the entire Switch and is flexible to fit any viewing angle you want, making that tabletop experience a lot better than it was last year. The OLED Switch also hides the SD card slot under the stand and also has a 64GB internal storage built in. The dock has been slightly redesigned with more rounded corners, as well as a much more stable dock for putting the Switch into, which feels a lot more premium, and I'm not really afraid that I'm going to break it by putting it into this thing like I was with the last model. But getting to the main event, this massive display, featuring a brand new 7-inch display, eliminating those thick bezels and incorporating OLED, which is a really nice touch. Immediately when you turn this thing on, you can tell just how big of a change the screen is compared to last year. Of course, it feels more premium because it's glass. It looks more premium with a pure OLED display rendering really rich colors and really true blacks. It widens your viewing experience and all gets tied together with this new immersive sound. All in all, the way I have to explain this new Switch is immersive. And with all the promotion of this brand new Samus game that just came out when this thing launched, what did I play first? Stardew Valley. That's right, I used this gorgeous, large display to play a very pixelated game. But even when playing a game without these sophisticated graphics, I still noticed the difference in the richer colors and the much larger display, which led to a way better gameplay in handheld mode than I'd ever seen before on a Switch. As someone who regularly uses docked play for my Switch and wanting to see it on the big screen, with this new Switch I found myself using the handheld way more often, and it was actually a really enjoyable experience, not struggling to see the smaller details in the games that I was playing. And that's something I almost never did with the previous model. Battery life on the OLED model is exactly the same as the previous edition, rating between 4.5 and 9 hours of battery life. Of course, that range is depending on what you're going to be playing. If you're playing something more intense like a Zelda game, for instance, that's probably going to last you closer to that 4.5 hours up to 5 hours of gameplay, but if you're playing something less intense, you're going to get closer to that 9 hours. And there's something really great to be said about including this much larger, much more HD display and still being able to keep that battery life the same, which is really not a range that bothered me at all. Now the downside to this OLED Switch, and probably what makes it the most controversial, is that all of these great features that they've included this year immediately become irrelevant the moment you dock this thing to a TV. See, it doesn't have any of those new impressive features like 4K or 120Hz refreshing. That docked experience with the TV is exactly the same in every way as the previous editions of the Switch. While most users were hoping for that 4K HD output, a more improved processor, or even themes for the Switch, none of these were mentioned with the release of the OLED model. Now there is a possibility that Nintendo's working on a Nintendo Switch Pro which does have these features, but nothing's been released or leaked in terms of that coming anytime soon. So is the OLED Nintendo Switch for you? Well, if you're somebody who regularly plays on your TV with it docked, no, you're not even going to notice a slight difference by upgrading. But if you're someone who even occasionally uses that handheld mode, I think you're going to find this a really revolutionary change and much more immersive to play. Like I said, I was previously exclusively using my Switch docked with the TV, but now with this new model, I'm regularly using it in handheld mode without any issues of losing details or really needing to see it on a larger display. I've thoroughly enjoyed my experience with the OLED model, and I definitely can't see myself going back. It's not so much that I hate the older Switch, but I definitely judge those who still have it. But in all seriousness, with a larger display, much better sound, that OLED crisp detail, the improved capacity up to 64 gigs, there's a lot to love about this new model. Let me know in the comments if you will be upgrading to the OLED Nintendo Switch. Leave your vote down below now. And while you're down there, remember to hit the like button because it tells YouTube that videos like this don't suck, and hit the subscribe button to see more videos like this from me. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.